Again, found another random old area in Shenzhen. The Great Well. This place was called something like Fenghuang Town. And you'll see this a lot in China, especially in Shenzhen. The few old areas that remain with ancient walls and little tiny alleyways, they have been heavily commercialized as China really pushes hard to increase pride in the motherland. I've heard that 20, even 10 years ago, caring so much about these old places and wearing traditional costumes was not in vogue, but nowadays, you can't see it now, but you've seen it in other videos, the girls especially will come to these places and there will just be a litany of girls. There will just be loads of girls dressed up in ancient style, dynasty-esque costumes and taking selfies. Well, not selfies, they'll sometimes actually pay photographers relatively a lot of money to get their sexy photos done. So it seems like these areas are being capitalized on in terms of capitalism. I guess, I'm not sure, but there you can see 1979. So all of Shenzhen didn't exist before that, officially. Now, some of these buildings would have still been here, and it would have looked very, very different. But yeah, it seems like the authorities are trying to encourage people to explore their own ancient areas, read the history, appreciate the culture, quite often dress up in old stuff too. So yeah, this is not exciting to me, but maybe some people on the old YouTube will appreciate this glimpse of China, which is pretty lesser spotted. As that man goes, there's a beautiful smell wafted into my nose. I don't know from where it emanates. I'm tempted to follow my nose, but I'm actually not going to do that. I'm going to loop back around to the beginning of this ancient town and probably just go home because it's only about half an hour till sunset and I can't be bothered to explore too much more today. So yeah, this is Shenzhen in South China. Very, very safe city in a very safe country. You just gotta avoid being killed by any bike. But fret not. They won't really kill you. You just gotta be bold. Oh yeah, let me zoom in on this woman, because that is another example of what I was saying. Chinese women are absolutely terrified of the sun. They will wear masks, even when, as you can see today, it's cloudy as hell. There's no sun. There's no sun, love. You don't need to be that paranoid over UV. Jesus. But to be fair, the rest of the women today are doing quite well. They're burying their faces. So that's nice to see. What else was I going to say? Yeah, you get a lot of these little street food vendors. They're almost always nice. Almost always nice. Go down there. Actually, yeah, I'm going to go down that way. Some big ass watermelons. Lovely jubbly. These will all cost absolute pennies, of course. But yeah, when you get a little street like this, it's pretty rare in Shenzhen because it's all very modern, fancy, high-tech, shiny. But you do get a lot of these old villages, as they call them, where the normal folks, the regular working classes live. And when you find a street like this, cha-ching, lads, I'm telling you, cha-ching, because the food is almost always good. Sometimes it might smell bad, sometimes it might look bad. Sometimes, to be honest, it might even taste bad, but you'll never, in my experience anyway, you'll never get sick, which is something that you're obviously always worried about in Asia. Like, what are these crazy people putting in my belly? But, touch wood, I've never been poisoned. Never been poisoned in any of these little alleyway places. So yeah, if you come to China, I recommend try not to get too annoyed by the e-bike beeping, but really recommend go to find, if you can, some of these little old streets, food streets, alleyways. You'll get some banging munch. Whoa, there's a dude scared of the sun. That's rare. It's normally just girls you see covered up like that. Ninja style. Alright. I'm not going to follow my own advice actually here. I'm just going to maybe jump on a bike, find the nearest metro, or maybe get a little bus. Because I am about 2 hours away from my flat. Maybe a little bit less. And pretty tired, so I don't want to be too late getting back. But yes, it's worth a stroll around these old traditional places in China. You see all kinds of food, and you will learn the helpful Chinese phrase of, what the fuck is that? You'll also see this, people just selling birds, poor fucking dogs. Look at that, man, poor little puppies. Poor little bastards just for sale. Now don't be fooled, the fact that they are next to the food stores doesn't mean that they are snacks. That is a stereotype that the Chinese eat dogs. I think it's only Yunnan, one province of southwest China, where they eat or ate dogs. In general, dogs is not a big snack. I've only heard a couple people say they hate dogs. But you do get some mad stuff. Mad for our palate anyway, if you're a Westerner. Like frogs and chicken feet and scorpions. But I mean, the French eat frogs and snails, so if you're French, you probably won't find China cuisine that weird. Alright, is there anything else to say here? No, not really. I've done a loop. This is where I started. So yeah, this is the funny thing about China. You'll find an old place like this that looks genuinely old. You know, the old roofs, old little pagodas. Let's see. This side was originally a pond, blah, 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 blah. But if I get by this granny, what I was going to film was, you can see almost all of these old buildings have been converted into coffee and tea labs. It's like whoever was in charge of the master urban plan of Shenzhen went to Soho, either the London or the New York one, or went to Amsterdam or Milan, or went to some posh area in Europe and decided that what Shenzhen needs is coffee shops everywhere. Not the good Amsterdam style, I mean coffee. Quite often it's cold coffee and iced tea, because I've not quite figured it out, but these guys have become addicted to caffeine in the past 5-10 years, and wherever you go in China, but specifically in Shenzhen, you will find little coffee places, tea places all over the shop, even in an ancient place like this. So I don't really know if Westerners will appreciate it. I think a lot of people want to come to China because they want the Great Wall, the old pagodas, the old temples, and all that ancient stuff. However, when you come to an ancient place in Shenzhen, it's almost always just been commercialized, and I think most people would find that a bit of a disappointment. All right, let me sign off on this musical note. Another thing you'll get in China quite a lot is people doing little dances like this to try and entice you into their premises. Bad timing. As soon as I rock up, they rock away. And yeah, they were live streaming that for their Douyin channel, or their Pinduoduo channel, or their Taobao channel, or their Meituan channel, or their Xiaohongshu channel, or their WeChat channel. Every single app in China, as I will show in a later video, is the same, basically, because every single app, whether it's for shopping or booking hotels or booking flights or paying taxes, pretty much every single app has text chat function, picture chat function, sometimes video chat function, and they all have video scrolling bits as well, which is a bit weird for us in the West, because we've got a declutterification of apps, which actually makes your phones more cluttered. So I kind of like the Chinese way. You pretty much just need 4 or 5 main apps, like WeChat, the main one, that is an everything app. That is PayPal, WhatsApp, Facebook, your bank, you know, whatever, YouTube, everything all in one. So yeah, that is one good thing I like about China. All right, anything else to say? No, not really. We go away from the ancient over there, back to the new. Oh yeah, one thing I'll say about the cars is China is the opposite of the West pretty much, because pretty much every car is electric, whereas in the West, a fancy posh champagne socialist will be in an electric car. Here, as you see in China, pretty much most of the time, the electric cars are the bog standard. The average man, the everyday sort of working class, maybe middle class guy with the green plates. If you see here, the blue number plate, that is the posh folks. If you can afford an old school petroleum mobile, that basically means you're balling all out of control. Whereas in the West, you know, posh folks are in the electric cars, the normal folks are still burning gas. So yeah, China's not 100%, but China's pretty much the opposite in that regard. I don't know if you heard anything I just said, because there's a noisy lorry behind me. All right, let me cross this road. This is very safe, this is very quiet. A nice little Sunday stroll. Quite often you are taking your life in your hands when you cross a road here, but like I said before, I've never died yet, so inshallah that continues. Ooh, one more sight to see as I come across this park. I quite like those lights. You can't really see that light because the light is illuminated by the sky behind, but here, alas, is not a functioning fountain. Would be good were those fish heads gushing out water, but they've made this nice. I always slag off Shenzhen for not having good bike lanes. This part of Bao'an, it's funny, it's a relatively ancient part of Shenzhen, but they've obviously retrofitted it fairly recently and made it well. So yeah, here's a random park. There's a big gold ball in the distance, don't know why. There's a big dragony pillar. It's a shame those fish aren't actually a working fountain, and there's not much more else to say. So for right now, I'm gonna shoot off and say goodbye to Fenghuang, ancient town.